Wow. I like that. That makes sense to me. The way that you articulated, I'm going to be taking increments of only $50,000. I can tell you that's going to be music to vendors' ears. Hi, it's Panos here. I've got with me Andrew Lutze. I've just spent a few minutes with him talking. He's from Cunningham's at Balgala, and I've got to tell you, sit tight. Try and turn your mobile off. Of course, if you're watching on a mobile, you've got to have your mobile on. But what I want you to do is focus in on this guy, 31 years of age, on track to write $2 million a year in GCI, average price of about $1 million, thereabouts. It's a bit lower, but it's gone up to $1 million now. But what you're going to hear is a guy that came out of school and in the last 10 years, or 11, 12 years actually, has become an attraction agent. Welcome.
Thanks, Tom.
I'm so pumped. There's so many things we're going to talk about here. But to our viewers out there that don't know Andrew Lutze, the quick version, give me 1 or 2 minute version of when you got into real estate and how your team looks now.
Sure. When I left school, I did a year overseas, and then when I came back from overseas playing rugby, I started at Cunningham's as a cadet. Held on to that position for about 18 months, then went under John Cunningham, who's our principal, his wing for about 2.5 years as a mentoring process, purely in sales. After that time, he released me, and then I went out on my own in sales, and I've been in sales ever since. And then over the years, built my team up from 1 PA, 2 PAs, back to 1, and now we're at 2 PAs again in the last 2 years.
Okay. How old were you when you went into sales full-time after being a cadet?
About 23.
So at 23, you're a full-time salesperson.
Yep.
Can I ask you, what did you write your first year?
First year was about 190,000 GCI.
Right.
Yep.
What do you think you'll write this financial, 2013-14 fin year?
2013-14 will be around about 1.85.
And what do you think you're on target to do for calendar year 2014?
Calendar year, we're on track for about 2 to 2-1 if we have a big second half.
Okay. First takeaway point, gang. Every $1 million agent or $2 million agent was once not a $2 million agent. You're hearing a guy who about less than 10 years ago wrote in his first year under $200,000. So I want everyone to know that where you are right now is not necessarily where you're going to end up. It's actually the starting point. The second thing I want to ask you is that you've got 2 PAs.
Yes.
And how does a team look like? What do you do? What do they do?
We have a really good structure, although I probably would have done it differently if I started again. I'm the lead agent, so mainly I focus on the listing and the vendor management. I try and upskill my PAs, well, I call them business colleagues. I don't like the term PA.
Right.
So the more I can upskill them and get them handling more buyer work, then I can handle all the vendor management, they handle all the buyers, the calls and so on, and then we can get more deals done. And we can actually sell more property.
Okay. Give me an idea. Callbacks, who does those?
So I'll handle generally all the hot buyers on the high profile properties, and everything else then I'll divvy up to either Ben or Liam. Liam's predominantly, he's the younger one of the two. Liam's more in a marketing admin role, but he's now progressing into that buyer agent role. And then Ben is very much purely a buyer agent, and he's almost a listing agent as well now.
Okay. Andrew, you said that you picked up a good learning about PAs. What was that?
When you're starting off a team or a super team, most people tend to have there's always different structures, but I tend to find the most productive agents and the best agents I wanted to emulate do a lead agent and then an admin agent. Someone who's going to be in the office doing the paperwork, supporting the lead agent all the time. I started off having a lead agent and then I had a buyer's agent. Right. So there's no one there to fill in the paperwork. Right. Sometimes you can miss things, or you're not writing enough volume to justify having a buyer agent.
Right.
So you need to get to a certain point to then bring on that buyer agent after you've got the foundation of an admin agent.
Okay, so key takeaway there is when you're going through the process of growing and putting on assistants, what you would do is you'd put on an admin PA first to look after the plumbing in the background, so there's nothing gets missed out, and then when you're busy enough to the next level, you'd put on a buyer PA that is a little bit more sales oriented, that's got the ability to communicate with buyers.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, so what you're saying that Andrew Lutze does a lot of his time during the week is going to listing presentations and having vendor management conversations with existing vendors.
And obviously, a lot of my time is spent generating business. 95% of our business from the team is generated through me.
Through you.
Yeah. So that way I can have as much time, and I give incentives to my business colleagues so that they can actually spend more time selling.
Okay. So Andrew, let's talk a little bit about it, because one of the things that I hear most from real estate agents is that they wish they could get into more doors.
Yes.
You must get into a lot of doors.
Yes.
Because you can't be riding the level that you're riding without you actually being face to face with potential vendors.
That's right. Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, and I know that having spoken with you before we filmed today, you said that you are definitely more a marketing attraction agent than a transactional chase type agent,
Yes.
So how do you get your business? We touched on a few things earlier on. What are your main sources of Andrew being on the shopping list?
I think being very much known in my patch.
Right.
So doing more business, and when you are getting listings in your patch, that you want to be known for, doing bigger campaigns. So even if you had to invest a little bit of your own money to upsize your ad, so I'd hold a really good auction program, let it run to auction day, so people know that you put on outstanding performance in that area. So very much I'm known as a specialist in Balgowlah, North Balgowlah, and perhaps in the Seaforth now. That's my core part of the market. And then
so Andrew, in that market that you just defined, are you known as the go-to person? You will most of the times get called into the presentation.
Yes, yeah. I like to think so.
Right.
I want to be one of the top 3 on the shopping list every time, yeah. If someone doesn't already have a relationship with someone else, and if they do have a relationship that I've been referred in there, obviously I need to do a great job to differentiate why I'm better and what strategies and performance I bring to the table that my competitors don't.
Okay, so one of the things you're saying is what gets you into a lot of doors is your current listings with marketing attached to those current listings.
Yeah.
Is a lead generator for more listings.
Absolutely.
And I would assume that the kind of people that call you out are cleaner business than what you get using the old 80s, 90s cold traditional methods of lead generation.
You're still going to get lots and lots of appraisals from past OFI lists. They're excellent sources of revenue, especially for your business colleagues. But for me, where I am, and my type of business, what I want to achieve, meeting people at open houses, you'll meet a lot of vendors and neighbours from the area. They're coming in there, and there's one or two things. Yes, they're looking to buy, but they're also on the flip side, when they do buy, they're looking to sell. So they're judging agents as well.
Right.
So you need to be putting on an outstanding performance. And also, like you said, an attraction agent, do they feel you adequately represent their home for what they want? Because there's a lot, unfortunately, there is a lot of ego in an owner's house, whether they know it or not. They feel their home is their castle, and we need to adequately understand where they feel their home is positioned on that ladder. So it's a fascinating job when you do get to be known as a specialist in a market. I still sell lots of listings all over the lower northern beaches, and that's probably 2/3 of my business is out of my core. 1/3 is part of my core, but where I want to be known is in my core area. That's almost like uncontested listings.
Right.
I'm at the dinner table. Andrew, it's an easy decision to choose you.
Okay, but you're not the only one that gets called in.
Definitely not. I mean, almost every listing appointment, unless it's a past client,
Yeah.
or even sometimes then, I'll always get someone else in just to double check.
Right.
But usually you'll find I'm up against one or two other competitors, all the time.
What do you think your advantages are in creating separation between you and other agents at the dining table, at the listing presentation?
It's a good question. Points of difference, separation. Look, I think being a specialist in the marketplace, you're always going to have a lot more cut through than other agents. But also, I think it's important that you do articulate how your team structure works and why that is a point of difference. So for me, not just having one agent who's trying to be everything to everyone. I'll do this, I'll do the marketing, I'll be making the callbacks, I'll having face-to-face weekly meetings. It doesn't work. You can't service the amount of buyers we have coming through. So I'll particularly show the owner that that's actually a bomb that's working to their disadvantage when they're using an agent who's trying to be everything to everyone.
So Andrew, contrary to what a lot of people say, which is, if you list with someone that's a really big agent and they've got a team of assistants, you're actually not getting that person. What you say is you bring that to the conversation and
Absolutely.
You say you're actually getting an advantage by dealing with the team.
That's right. You need to bubble that to the surface and show them why there's far more advantages using a specialist. Where you need me best, where you're going to get most value out of me, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, is at the negotiation table. If I was the best person to be at every single open house, I'd be there. Right. But the sad truth is that I'm not. You see, Ben and Liam are going to know more of the buyers than I will. Right. And so they're going to have a better connection and they're going to induce an offer faster than I would. What we do with that offer then sits in my lap.
Right, okay, so what you're saying is that you let them know at the valuable point of the transaction, then you come in.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
And that's not the same with every client, especially the high profile clients. And you're going to get some clients who just say, Andrew, I just want to deal with you.
Yeah.
And that's fine, you have to pick and choose your battles.
Yeah.
But you just, for most of the point, if you have to be firm on what you want to achieve. Otherwise, you'll get tired, you'll get burnt out. And I've had lots of years of being tired. And I looked at some really great guys like Marcus Ciminello and James Tosterman and those Marshall White guys who structure their super teams so well because they bring it up and they layer it the right way from the start. Right. They don't start going on and telling people about their associates who do all these things halfway through a campaign. They know right at the very start of the listing appointment, or perhaps it's once they've signed it, they have the set for sale meeting, your strategy meeting before you first open about who does what and why they do what.
Right.
So that communication is pretty critical.
For 3 years in a row, I think you won the Results Network Auctioneer of the Year.
Yes, for the Real Estate Results Network.
Real Estate Results Network. You do your own auctions?
Yes.
You do other people's auctions?
Yes, I'm the company's chief auctioneer.
So how many do you reckon you do in a year?
Well, we're selling a lot prior now, but I would say at least 6 a month, so 6 to 8 a month.
6 to 8 a month.
Okay. That would be,
When you're doing auctions of your own properties?
Yes.
How do you convey that to a vendor in a listing presentation, and how does it articulate out in the real world? Is it an advantage, or do you find that you're trying to do everything on the day?
Well, it's almost like I'm contradicting myself being everything to everyone what I said, but in terms of a point of difference that we bring to the table, most other agents will use an independent auctioneer, and I think that's fine, but I try and use that to my advantage to say, well, the independent auctioneer will come in, they don't know you, they have no invested interest in the property. 15 minutes they'll show up, they'll shake your hand, regardless of the result, they're still going to get paid. Whereas, I've spent 4 weeks knowing the buyers. I know exactly their budgets. I know how hard I need to push that buyer based on their personality on the floor. See, that information is going to give me a huge advantage over all of my competitors who's going to use someone that is completely alien to the whole campaign.
Right, okay, so that's another tick you think that you've got versus a person going into a listing presentation.
That's right, and there'll always be rebuttals, and there's always going to be arguments either side, and I guess there's no right way about it, but who tells the best story wins.
Correct. I love that, who tells the best story wins, and let me tell you, stories sell. Facts tell, stories sell.
Yeah.
Andrew, but that will only help with auctions,
Well, also I use the auctioneering side of things to my advantage when we're doing private treaty as well. And that comes into how you negotiate how we're negotiating with buyers. And I'll typically do a role play with an owner.
At the listing presentation?
Absolutely. Because you're showing your skills and the best way to set that up is that I'm sure all the other agents you've interviewed, Tom, would have already shown you how they negotiate. So I'm going to show you now. I think let's role play now how we run a negotiation. Oh no, Andrew, we haven't, none of the other agents have done that. Oh, they haven't done that. That's odd. And so it's a little bomb you can throw in there that we need to, but what I would suggest is that when we are negotiating, when I'm doing the role play with the client, saying that my auctioneering skills come into play there more than ever, because I've got the skill set of an auctioneer to keep the increments higher, I'm able to accelerate the price a lot faster in negotiation. So rather than a buyer negotiating with an agent who's just willing to take the minimum increments, $5,000, $10,000 higher offer, I'm going to start at $50,000 lots, $100,000, and be firm on that. No, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, we've been working, I can take $1,005,000 to the owner, but realistically, we've been working with $50,000 lots. So the next minimum increment I'm accepting is $1,050,000.
Wow, so that's the dialogue and language that you would use to a buyer.
Yes.
And the dialogue and language you will use in the role play at the listing presentation to show a vendor, this is why I'm better.
Absolutely. And you need to, and I guess, it's like a magic trick, the rabbit, pulling rabbit out of the hat is not enough, you've got to make it disappear again. That you need to actually, bring it back to, surely the other agents have demonstrated this to you. Have they not already explained this to you? And they say no, that's that separation. Okay, Andrew has shown us this. Andrew's shown us how he's going to accelerate the price. That's only one attribute, but there's thousands of them.
Wow. I like that. That makes sense to me. The way that you articulated, I'm going to be taking increments of only $50,000. I can tell you that's going to be music to vendors' ears. The fact that, you're going to write $2 million in gross commission income. Extraordinary. The reality is that most of the people that are watching this video blog, they just think to themselves, you know what? I'd be happy to do a quarter of that. I'd be happy to write 500 grand in GCI.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a couple of questions. The first one is to new agents that are out there. What are the best pieces of advice you can give to them as a 31-year-old guy now, knowing what you know, 12, 13 years down the track? What's some advice that you can give these viewers?
Well, I think it's important when you're starting your career that you definitely get a mentor. You need to have someone who you aspire to. It doesn't have to be working in your office, it's a bonus if they are, but someone who you can meet with regularly, and it needs to be more than once a month.
Right.
And part of that mentorship will become accountability.
Right.
And the second point then is obviously having you're having your product knowledge better than anyone else.
Right.
And that goes hand in hand with having a patch, a farm area. So that you're known in that space. Andrew Lutze, I know if we go to Balgala, North Balgala, if I have to drive 2 streets and see his name on a signboard. How do you get known for that space? You've got to work your patch. Know the data in the patch, average sale price, unit price, why properties are selling, what's the demographics of the buyers that move into that area, why do they move into that area, what are the attributes and the amenities that people like about the area.
So know it inside out.
You have to know it inside out. Reading the paper and reading realestate.com is not enough, or Domain or whatever it may be. They've got to actually, invest, know the communities, know the inner circles of the schools, where the crossover section of schools and why people move to that street versus this street. I mean, it gets fickle, but, you're then becoming the go-to person.
So what you're saying to me is get a mentor, an accountability partner, choose an area and say, I am going to be the go-to person, become the rock star in this area, know it inside out.
Yep.
Is there a third thing?
Yeah, definitely. Third thing is just keeping it simple. You've got to have structure. Don't be everything to everyone, don't be ad hoc. When you're taking a phone call here, you're negotiating on a sale, then you decide to do 10 minutes of prospecting, but you wanted to do an hour, then you get sidetracked. Keep it simple. In the last 3 years, I've been doing ad hoc all my career, and I've only kept it simple now, and I'm actually producing far better results than I ever have.
Right. So I like to hear this because as someone that is mild ADD, and I have got this addiction to get distracted sometimes. Right?
Yeah.
How making the transition of trying to move into a process, systemised, non-ad hoc person. What you say you do less, but you just concentrate, stay on task, is it?
Ideal weeks, ideal days, it all sounds wonderful, but I keep it simple. Like AM, I'm in the office, PM, I'm out at appointments. You're most productive on the phone, you're going to get the most cut through, those hard conversations, critical conversations you need to have at the right time, always AM.
Right.
You know, you're always going to be in the morning. At PM, that's when you schedule all your appointments. Andrew, I can only see you at 10 a.m. for an appraisal. Look, I'm sorry, I'm fully booked up until midday. How about we make it 6:30 tonight when you get home from work?
So AM more likely, Andrew, for you is internal, in the office, on the phone.
Prospecting.
Right.
Yep, that's right.
Right. And PM is you go out, meet buyers, go to listing presentations.
That's right.
Okay. Alrighty. I know that you love rugby. We spoke about that, and somehow you've been able to stay connected to rugby, and also not only have it as part of your life, but it is part of your real estate life. Can you elaborate on?
Yeah.
Which club is it again?
So I sponsor the Bag LSC Fourth Raiders Rugby Club. It's a junior rugby club. So they have the mini sort of under 6s to under 10s, and then the juniors under 10s to under 14s. A lot of people do sponsor rugby clubs and different communities and that as well in your patch, and that's great. I think it's really important. But don't just stop there by giving a check. I actually coach as well, even though I don't have any kids in the club. I get in there and I coach. I've been coaching for 3 years, a team. So people know me as, okay, well, the Raiders are affiliated to Cunningham's, but they're affiliated to Andrew Lutze.
Right.
So my agency actually has got the affiliation, we've got branding, that's great, but they know that I'm the go-to person in that club. If they ever want to talk about real estate, they'll go to me. Well, that's what I hope. That's You've got to actually be known first rather than actually expect listings to come back.
Is community like... A lot of my talks are about vendor paid advertising because it seems to be a win-win, helps the vendor, helps the agent.
Definitely.
But agent paid advertising is something that comes up to me all the time. What's your view on agent paid advertising for not property, for say sponsorships?
I spend around about 1% of my GCI in agent paid advertising. Maybe 5,000 of it is in paper.
Right.
Hardly that. I really avoid putting my big flashy name getting out there in the papers unless it's a community focused thing, because most of our market is young families. They're going to be in that part of the market, so I want them to know me as not just being an agent. Take the suit and tie off. Here's Andrew with the rugby boots on.
So your agent paid advertising is not, wow, look at me.
No, it's more getting to know this is what part of the community. So I do a lot of my agent paid advertising is in sponsorship.
Right.
So it's in sponsorship for the local faiths, the local schools. I'll help out there having their auction night to raise funds. I'll do the auctioneering, and I'll also donate 1 or 2 items. I'll go to the rugby club, and we donate almost 10 grand a year in funds to the club. So it's those sort of things that you'll get far better value out of. You won't initially for your first year, but you're laying down the foundation for you to continue on year after year after year. Especially if you're starting again, latch onto a rugby club or a soccer club or a netball community. There's so much talkability. It's amazing you walk down the sidelines, and when they're doing a scrum that's taking forever, and the parents start talking. It's amazing how much.
But by the sounds of it, you're saying do something, not because I'll do that and I'll pick up a listing out of it.
No.
Try and pick something that you like doing anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you do it anyway, and this is a byproduct that people are going to talk about, and they'll probably talk more positively if they see that you love what you're doing anyway.
You're passionate about it, exactly. So I've been passionate about real estate. Most of the top performers, obviously, they love what they do. I mean, I love coming to work. Obviously, you don't have great days every day, but majority of the time, I really, really, love coming to work, and I love getting on the phone, talking to people, because that's. And you can hear it come through, and you can see it in your body language, your energy, at your opens, that sort of thing. So, like you said, the attraction thing, when you go to a good open house and you think, wow, this is going well because they've got the right energy and it's the right attraction thing. I want to emulate that.
Yeah. Andrew, cancer,
Yes.
you got diagnosed, I think you said last year?
Yeah, last August, got diagnosed
August.
with testicular cancer, and went and had quick surgery, went on a fairly intensive chemo treatment for about 8 weeks, and then a bit of a low spot.
So yeah, is there anything that's come out of it that's changed Andrew Lutze's view on life, work?
Yeah, I think you really learn what's important to you in your life, that's for sure. It makes you very humble. It makes you realise that there's more to life than just real estate and money and so on. And it probably takes a fairly significant event like that, or perhaps it's a death in your family or someone close or whatever it may be. But it definitely makes you appreciate just how good, if you do something you love, how good a position you're in, how fortunate you're in.
And how grateful you've got to be when your health is good and you've got good work.
That's right.
It probably makes you realise when you miss out on a listing presentation, or you've got a crack event, or when you pre-frame things, you realise it's small stuff.
And it also, you're absolutely right, and it also helps, it really has enabled me, and I can't believe I'm probably doing 3 times better now since I've had treatment. In terms of my work, because I'm getting the empathy. I really developed. I realise there's a lot more empathy when someone is in a challenging position. You don't need to rush them through everything. If you can just spend 10 minutes more listening and empathising with the client, it's amazing the cut through you'll get. Actually, you'll end up getting more answers that will lead on to that knock-on effect, when you're going to get the deal, whether you get the right price, whether you get the right marketing, right fee, is it in your core area. It's like a listing leverage checklist, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you going to leverage this listing to its max, and how can you get that from your biggest advocate, which is your client?
Yeah.
So it helps your mindset, realise that there's a few things.
There's so much more I know that I wanted to talk to you about, and I'm mindful of time, but I don't want to miss those things, so I'm going to ask you a couple of quick questions, if that's all right. So you've told me vendor paid advertising in your current listings are one of your biggest sources of listings.
Yes.
You've told me that community sponsorship, being a specialist and known as the go-to person in the market. Andrew, databasing.
Yes.
What does it mean to you, and what does database, and how does it work for your business?
A database is critical because that's people you've either done business with, or everyone probably understands the database. For me, my database, I separate it down to my VIP, my top 10 clients. They're people who are advocates. They are virtually more friends now than clients, and they're the ones who are going to ferociously recommend your name in the community and to their friends anywhere, and they'll defend you at any cost if someone ever has to challenge them on something. So they're my top 10. You need to be speaking to them twice or 3 times a week.
Wow. Yeah. So these 10 people, give me an example of just one of these people.
Solicitor you refer a lot of business to, and they refer business back. There's a commercial relationship. There's the club president for my rugby team that I sponsor. There's probably a client who I've sold 3 or 4 properties for. There's another one who I've sold nothing for.
Wow.
I sold their family member's property, but he refers me so much business. Just because I keep doing the right thing, keep in touch, keeping them informed. I've actually never done any business with him. Wow. That's a good VIP client for me.
So what you're saying is these 10 people are treated, you use the term VIP, very important person, and you treat them like that.
Yep.
And in return, they give you multiple referrals over your real estate life.
Well, that's your generation plan. That's your prospecting plan. I think if you can develop more relationships with people like that, you don't need to be cold calling. You don't need, yes, you need to be sticking your head in your database and your pipeline all the time. And that's bread and butter. You have to do that. You can't get to this point without doing that. But these people are the ones where you go to first on a Monday morning.
Right.
That's instead of ringing all your callbacks and that sort of thing, tell your VIPs what happened on the weekend.
Right. Okay. Andrew, 2 final questions. Number 1. Best advice to someone who's watching this that's struggling. They might have been in real estate for a while. What's a bit of advice you can give them?
If you haven't got a patch, get a patch.
Right.
Get serious about real estate. And actually stop going ad hoc. AM, PM. That's probably the best. AM, you're in the office. Don't leave the office. Don't break your time blocking. You say 10 before 10.
Yeah.
That started my career. I did that for 6 years religiously. Loved it. 10 prospecting calls before 10.
Okay. You're talking about keeping it simple. Someone that gets this ideal week and it's blocked off like, it looks like a colourful jigsaw puzzle. You've got colours everywhere.
Yeah.
Seriously, you're setting it up for failure and guilt and depression because you're not sticking to something that's actually not stickable to,
That's right.
Last question. If Andrew Lutze was meeting Andrew Lutze day 1 in real estate, when he just got back from overseas and he was joining Cunningham's, what advice would Andrew give himself now, 13 years down the track?
I would I'd tell him to, once you hit 200,000 GCI, get a PA.
Right.
Get a PA earlier than you think, because you want to be dealing with the pointy end of stuff, and you want to let go of the stuff that's not dollar productive.
Right.
And you've got to be effective. You've got to be dollar productive. What activity am I going to do today that's going to earn me money tomorrow?
Right. Okay. I've just met this guy here today that I think to myself, he typifies attraction agent, success, humility, keeping it simple. I'm just so happy that we did this, and John Cunningham said to me, Tom, you've got to meet Andrew, right? And mate, thank you so much for coming along. Congratulations, I hear the good news, baby's coming along.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Well, December 1's going to be a hot baby.
Wow, December 1, hot babies. First day in summer, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, alrighty,
Thanks,
thank you
Tom.
so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.
You worry about the process, the proceeds will come. Whereas a lot of people, John, they don't care about the manner,
No.
but care about the comp.
Yeah,
You know?
they're just after the deal.
Yeah.
Like they're deal focused, and I know within my team, as soon as any of my guys get deal focused,
Yeah.
they lose their way,
Yeah.
because it's the deal's everything. No, it's not. It's the experience that's everything.